can you change your mind once you actually submit the offer? Like once you throw it into the listing agent's inbox,
Yeah.
can you do anything about it, or are you stuck until they give you an answer? All right, guys, welcome to episode one, officially episode one. Last one was more of an intro to the Brannicky Team podcast. This is going to be more about offers and backing out, and can you change your mind? And Jamie, do you want to go a little bit into what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I think one of the most common questions that we see as realtors is people want to know, if I put an offer in, can I back out? I know that Dylan might touch on this a little bit as well. That has to do with like inspections in the offer as well. So we're just going to kind of dive into the process of, putting that offer in, what that looks like, what you, not necessarily rights are, but what you can do, what you can't do, what to look out for, and the questions to ask to your realtor as well. So if you're confused or if you need some more information, we're going to try to touch on some of the things to really dive into with your realtor, so you're getting the best out of your offer and what you're doing. So
and hitting too, can you change your mind once you actually submit the offer? Like once you throw it into the listing agent's inbox,
yeah.
Can you do anything about it, or are you stuck until they give you an answer? So, but Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah. Then you would bring up the next question is, have they signed it? So you send the offer over. Let's say I'm representing the buyer. I send you the offer, the listing agent, and if he has not returned it to me, even if it's sitting in his computer signed, then I can rescind it.
Right. And I think that, but one thing to note too on that topic though is, so yes, the answer very shortly is yes,
Right.
You can change your mind if you want before it's accepted. But this is where it gets challenging because the other parties have to acknowledge that it was rescinded. So if you go ahead and you send over the email saying, hey, I'm rescinding this offer, we're no longer interested, but then the other listing agent says, oh, well, we already had it. We were literally typing up the email to send it over to you. Like they have to acknowledge it. Like you need to make sure that you communicate with that listing agent. Give them a call, shoot them a text, make sure they acknowledge it because they have to.
Well, that's when it might be best to put it in email. I mean, you want that in writing.
Yes.
So a phone call, I mean, you want to make sure you have all your lines crossed there.
No, I agree. But my thing, what I'm trying to like say, I guess, is you want to send it in writing, have it in email, but then make the call to the agent.
Right.
So they're acknowledging that they've received it because you want to make them aware of it as quickly as possible. So it's not a surprise.
Let me ask you this, Tim. How important is it to use your phone and actually call people rather than just texting people?
I think it's everything, to be honest with you. I think understanding, and this is when we're going to get into another episode about why a realtor is important, how to pick a realtor, like what
Sure.
is the job of a realtor. And I think the biggest thing for me is understanding that some realtors communicate solely through text. Yeah. That's just reality. They don't like to call. Some realtors solely use phone call,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But you kind of need a mix of both. You need somebody that's going to work the emails, that works text messages, that works phone calls. And as cliche as that sounds, it's the reality.
It's one of the first questions I ask when I work with a client is, how do you want me to contact you?
Yeah, best
Because
way
I
communication.
feel like everyone has a preference. And I mean, it's important just to
No
build
doubt.
that relationship, even with something as small as that.
Well, and that's to that point of saying everybody has that preference.
Mhm.
Like for me, if you say, if I'm talking with buddies, of course I'm going to text. Like that's my go-to. In a professional setting, I prefer a phone call because I feel like I can learn a lot more about the situation of an offer, the situation of a house. You can describe to me and give me a picture of what's going on over a phone call versus a text. However I read it, I'm painting a picture in my head, and it might be completely wrong.
That's exactly what I was going to touch on. I mean, it's always been said, it's hard to get the feel for emotion that it was sent through a text. And, it's just tough to read all the time. So, how the other side's feeling. So when you're dealing with binding contracts, it's very important to make sure you have that covered.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I mean, phone call. For me, it is very important to pick up the phone, be able to talk to somebody, and know what to say. I mean, that's the biggest thing is knowing what to say. What is your objective? What is your goal? And when we get down the line here, I mean, kind of going through the contract, now we're saying, okay, we decided not to change our mind. So we went through with everything. We're wanting to get inspections now. Dylan or Jamie, do one of you guys want to touch on kind of the inspections? Like, are we able to get out through inspections? What about a resolution period, inspection notices, things like that? Do you want to touch on that, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, because that does vary in terms of comparing it to sending an offer and being able to rescind it with notice. Inspection notice, it's a little different because there's a hard deadline.
Yeah.
It's negotiable in the offer, but it's usually 7 to 10 days. And through that time, you're responsible of getting the inspection and then filling out the notice of, whatever you may ask for, whether it's, funding to repair something or for them to fix it before closing. But once you send that over, that's a done deal.
Yeah. And I think one thing to know, though, in what you just said, it's a done deal. Meaning, if we say, hey, I want you to put a radon mitigation system in, we also want you to replace the railing on the back deck. Like you want things done, right? Yeah. So you check off on the resolution or the inspection notice, send it over. What if then your client says, do you know what? Actually, the more we're thinking about it, another house just came on the market. Can we just pull that back and then we'll just let's back out? We have the option because on the inspection notice, you have 3 options.
Yeah.
Option 1 is inspection was satisfactory. We're moving on. Option 2 is we're terminating. We purchased an inspection. We're terminating and we're getting our earnest money back and moving on. Option 3 is we're asking for something to be repaired. So if we say option 3, we're asking for something to be repaired, and then we decide, do you know what? We submitted it already, right? Like we've already sent it in. And then as the buyer, you say, oh, do you know what? This house just came up on the market. Let's just back out of this one now. Can you do that through the inspection resolution or the inspection notice?
No, you'd not be able to.
No, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is in certain situations, you're able to get out of a contract through certain contingencies, but also you're not always able to change your mind. So from the standpoint of once you make the offer, can you change your mind before it's accepted? Yes. But from this standpoint, can you change your mind once you submit the inspection notice? No, you can't. And it's unfortunate, but you have to work that out. Now, as you mentioned on the deadlines, it says if there's no agreement met within blank number of days, the contract's terminated. And the contracts we're referring to are the SLAR forms, St. Louis Association of Realtor forms. So they do change based on association, based on state. But I think that's an interesting topic to cover.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing I think too is I've seen this a lot as well with just like as is. Let's talk a little bit more about like getting out of a contract in that regard. So like if you're taking the house as is, like let's help define that for people, because I don't think people completely understand, what that means, right? Like
there's a lot of variations of as is. Dylan, do you want to hit on that at all?
You can go ahead.
So this, I get this question all the time is what is as is when I'm with a listing or when I'm listing a property and the seller is saying, we want to sell it as is. Okay, well, and I always ask them this, in your definition, what does that mean? Because certain sellers will say, when I say as is, I mean, I'm not doing anything. I am not allowing you to even get an inspection on the house. Like the way you see the house is solely the way it's going to be when you close. We're going to accept the contract. You're not putting a single inspector in this house. That is as is.
Yeah.
Now, there is another version of as is, which is, sure, we're going to let you do your inspections. We're going to let you get your radon, your termite, your gas, mechanical, your home inspection.
For information only.
For information only.
Boom.
But they put that in as is. So that's where it gets confusing, because when you say as is, which as is are you actually referring to? So that's a really good question that you brought up. But majority of the time when we see that, though, they're referring to information purposes only.
Yeah.
Meaning, I guess the easiest way to describe it is take it or leave it. You're getting your inspections done. You're able to look at all the information, and then you go on your inspection notice and you either say you're happy with it or you're not happy with it. It's one of the two. There's no ask for repairs.
So what do you think is the biggest piece of advice for people who are wondering, the topic obviously is like, can you get out of a contract and how that process works? So what should people know? And again, what are some of those questions? I feel like in all these episodes, we're going to be trying to give people questions to ask realtors, things to be aware of. So, how do people become more aware of what their, I'm going to say the word again, rights are in the contract?
Yeah, Dylan, I mean, do you want to hit
I
on
mean,
that at all?
I do think that's one of the biggest jobs of a realtor is make sure that your client knows exactly what they're putting all their money towards.
Right.
I mean, that's to walk through each step of the contract and explain to them, this is this contingency, and that's the deadline it needs to be met by. This is this contingency, and on throughout it. And I think it should be pretty self-explanatory once you break it down by that, and they'll be fully aware of what they're getting into.
Well, and I think going back to the beginning of the process, like before even looking at the house, I think it's smart to kind of tell your client, if you're working with a buyer, tell your buyer, like, this is what you need to expect when we go through this process. Here's the deadlines. Here are the main deadlines. Now they can be altered, and we can strengthen these by adjusting our position with them. But I mean, strengthen them, meaning in terms of the eyes of the seller, make them more favorable possibly to the seller. But you want to still keep that safety net in there. You still want to keep that safety clause that allows your buyer to get out if anything does go south. So I think just being able to be upfront with your client and say, look, here's where we're at. These are the inspections. This is what an appraisal is. This is how the financing side's going to work. This is how the insurance side's going to work. In being able to provide them with the contacts to make that happen, to be able to make them feel comfortable and say, here's who I highly recommend for this. I've worked numerous deals with this person, and I trust them with everything. They've been great for me.
I know that's one of the first things you sent me was when I got into it was a full list of everyone that you work with in terms of like inspectors and insurance people. And I mean, it's huge to have. I mean, it's something that simple that can make it that much of a smoother process for you and your client.
Well, yeah, like you said, just laying everything out there and just putting the expectations out there of what you're going to face moving forward. Because like you said, the process can be very similar to deal, but at the same time, very different from deal to deal. And you don't want something to come up where all of a sudden your client or the buyer or the seller is really shocked by, whoa, we didn't expect this. You want to be able to say, if something does happen, though, you want to be able to say, yeah, you know what? This is what we didn't expect this to happen, but here's how we're going to navigate it. And just being able to put them in the position of, it's going to be okay. Believe me, we're going to be okay.
Right.
It's just not every deal goes 100% smooth. That's the reality of it. But that's a good question, Jamie, you brought up. And I think the biggest takeaway that we're going to get from this episode more than anything is understanding that you do have the ability to protect yourself always. However, you will always have the option to strengthen your position based on how really into the home you are. How much do you really need the home? And that all comes back to your motivation. Why are you buying the home? When do you have to be moved in by? What's your motivation? But just knowing that, can you change your mind on an offer once you submitted it? Yes. Do you have backouts throughout the contract? Numerous backouts? Yes. Can you change your mind once you submit the inspection notice asking for repairs? No. And I think that's the biggest takeaway of this episode. So, you guys have anything else final to say?
No, I think that's good. If you guys have questions, please feel free to drop something in the comments as always. And, like we said in the intro episode, we'll have our contact information. So if you guys have questions and you want to just call us or email us, that's fine as well. But yeah, hopefully, this was a informational or informative episode for you all. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, moving forward, we got some exciting episodes, so stay tuned. Next week, we're going to drop a really cool one. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like our channel.
Thank you, guys.
See you later.